everybody, and welcome to Tea Time with RK. Today, my special guest is Sabrina Militello, and Sabrina is the founder of Inspire Elite Fitness. And Sabrina comes to us as a wellness and health coach who has dedicated herself to improving the health of so many other people. And she is absolutely amazing. And I'm so excited to have this conversation because if you're like me, today I had to work out. I told Sabrina before I came on today that I actually had to work out because she was coming on the program and I had to show up correct for her. So let's get into it. Sabrina, let's bring you right on. Here we go.
Hey,
So
hey, hey.
amazing to have you. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Gosh, it's my pleasure.
So, Sabrina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started off on this journey to become an entrepreneur? Tell us how you started this all.
Yeah. Gosh, I always struggle with a question like that because this process has been anything but straightforward, anything but linear, anything but easy. But sometimes I think that is the kind of definition of an entrepreneurial process, you know? So I obviously am not from the United States. My husband and I, we both live here on the East Coast now, but I'm from a small town just outside of London in the United Kingdom. And we moved to the US, it's nearly 11 years ago. And with that move, I was presented with this opportunity to kind of begin again with my life choices because we moved to a different continent. You know, I left the career and the job that I had back then. And I had this incredible opportunity to kind of look at my life and think, okay, what brings me joy? What is it that I want to do? Who is it that I want to serve? What kind of impact do I want to have on the world? And I have been through a pretty epic in all kind of guises of that word, weight loss journey. I've now lost 100 pounds. And I kind of came to the end of that process really not in a good place mentally, physically. I struggled a lot. I had an eating disorder. There was a period of exercise obsession in there. I really struggled through that process. And when I was presented with this opportunity to kind of figure out what I wanted my life to be, there was a moment where I thought, surely it doesn't have to look like that. Surely there is a way to go through something as profoundly transformative as weight loss in, you know, regardless of the number attached to it, but do it in a way that was joyful, that was sustainable, that didn't come with like a disclaimer attached to it. And I thought, okay, if I can serve a woman or a man or somebody out there to go through their transformation process in a way that it didn't have to look like mine, then that was work well worth doing. Say that 5 times fast. So that's kind of where I kind of came into the space of wellness. And I went and got my personal training certification. Like I did all of the academic study, opened my personal training business. And that action kind of led me down a path where I became a group fitness instructor. And I co-owned a boutique fitness studio for a number of years. And you know, things were good and then they weren't so good. And my husband and I, we ended up moving over here to the East Coast. We were in Texas at that time. And so with that move, again, I was presented with this kind of, what now, Sabrina? What do you want to create? What do you want to do? And I realized that I still definitely wanted to be in the wellness space, but with the prospect of moving, because my husband's job, it can move us around pretty frequently. I didn't want to always enter that question again of, okay, now you have to go and find another job. Now you have to rebuild your client base. Now you have to find another studio. Now you have to start again and again and again, you know, every single time we moved. So that's when I kind of took the leap to taking my business 100% online, being completely virtual in all of my business endeavors. And that's kind of what brought me here to this space now.
So, Sabrina, I have to ask because working with individuals in a virtual setting in this way is new to so many people. I was talking to someone literally today about the fact that the world has transformed so quickly due to the pandemic in many ways, but that we are becoming so much more comfortable with the idea of virtual and working one on one and still having these deep connections with people one on one. Can you talk to us a little bit about what does it look like to actually coach someone in this way over the computer?
I honestly think that it's easier and it brings an opportunity to be more valuable doing it this way. Because one of my big frustrations, and anybody who's in, the fitness industry as a professional can probably attest to this, one of my big frustrations was I would spend, my best client would see me 5 times a week for 1 hour, right? 1 hour I got to spend time training somebody on their fitness 5 times a week. Some it was 3 times a week, some once a week. You give all that time, create all that programming, and you just get this 1 hour, one chunk of time. What they're doing for the other 23 hours of that day are what is going to decide the results they get. So as a fitness professional, you're always wanting to help people get results. That's kind of your credibility. It's your success story as a business owner, how successful the people you serve are, right? So you would spend this time with this person trying to help them get results, but really what they're doing when they're outside of your hour is what's going to determine their results. And that was a big frustration for me. So having now all my interactions be virtual, I've created a community. All my clients are a part of a bigger, wider community. And having that community interaction, the accountability that comes with having a close-knit group of people that are on the same path as you, struggling with the same things as you, doing the same things as you, there's accountability built into that where, we check in with each other. And if someone doesn't show up for a day or two, everybody's kind of like, yo, where are you? And it holds people to what it is that they set out to do. And then I'm there as kind of like that extra voice, that extra guide, that support system to really dive deeper into, it's not just what we spend an hour doing in terms of your fitness once a week, but really, how is your nutrition in the other 23 hours of that day? What is your internal narrative like in all of the hours of your week? And how does that mindset related stuff, how you talk to yourself, your belief system about your ability to achieve your goals, how does that actually determine your ability to achieve your goals? And how can we dive into that and make that a more powerful conversation? So for me, being in an online space, it gives me the ability to really do the work that's important, the work that actually matters. And not to say that fitness and training and that kind of stuff doesn't matter. Of course it does. But having the capacity to have more scope and more time because you've got a virtual setting, and what's more, you've built a community, so you're not limited to coaching one person at a time. You can now coach, tens, hundreds of people in one go. It broadens the scope of business, in my opinion.
So interesting. So, what I'm taking from this is that while fitness and the nutrition and so on are such an important part of the overall picture, when it comes to navigating things like the serial dieters or the yo-yo workouts, where you go 4 months without working out and then you come back in for the
And do a
interview
workout
and do an
for the
interview.
interview. I love it.
But when you're in that place, you flow into mindset more than just accountability. Is that what I'm taking
Yeah.
away?
1,000%. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she actually commented, she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that these were my obstacles. I didn't realize that these were my blocks. And she was like, Sabrina, how are we having these kind of revelations? And I literally said, I gave you what you wanted so that I could give you what you need. People come to me because they think what they need is a fitness routine, maybe a meal plan, maybe someone to hold them to it. What they actually need is to dive into the stories, which are the things that are deciding whether or not they stick to doing those behaviors. You know, it's part of my story being in that cycle and that vicious circle of yo-yo and binge eating and all of those things is part of my own story. So I think for me, I recognize that I can't market myself necessarily as like a mindset coach, even though that's really what it is that I do, because that's not what someone's looking for. Somebody who struggled with the same things that I struggled with when it came to yo-yo dieting, binging, then that self kind of hatred that you go through when you go through those behaviors and you don't stick with the routine and you're falling off track and then you come back on and then inevitably you fall off again. And that whole cycle, somebody who's going through that isn't Googling, I need a mindset coach. They're Googling, how do I lose weight? How do I find somebody to help me lose weight? That's what they're looking for. And so, you know, from a purely business standpoint, I market to people what they want so that truly I can help them with what they need.
Very interesting. I love it.
Sneaky,
it.
sneaky.
Well, you do what you have to do. You meet people where they are, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
Because it's at the end of the day, it's like if you can get to the root cause of what the problem is, then you can heal so many things. And even in
Exactly
my own
that.
line, Sabrina, most of the time when I'm working with someone and they need to pay off a large lump sum of debt, we need to heal the reason why you're spending so aggressively. We need to work on that before we're able to actually hold you to a strategy.
Yeah,
But if I
100%. And
said that,
yeah. If you said that, people would be like, I just need help paying off my debt. What are you talking about? Yeah. And I think I frame it in this way in relation to the women that I serve and their weight loss processes, but you could easily word it slightly differently for any industry, I think, is that it's not about the weight, it's about the story that got you to that weight in the first place. Right? It's about healing that. It's about discovering that. It's about rewriting that. It's about creating a new narrative. So it's not, I say this to my people all the time, it's not the weight that we're dealing with. It's the life that the weight is stealing from you. And it's healing the story that got you to that weight in the first place. And I think that applies in so many different areas where behavioral tendencies are what are causing disruption or dis-ease in life.
yeah. I want to ask you this, Sabrina. One thing that I've noticed just looking out the window, right, is that I see during COVID so many more people out walking, biking, rollerblading. I never saw someone ride a rollerblade. I
It's like,
haven't seen that since the
where did
90s.
that come back? I know.
But people are outside doing it all. Are you seeing that there is a revitalization of fitness, stay healthy, and then that's flowing into the mindset of the people that you coach?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think for most people, the trauma that we've all been through collectively, globally over the last 13 months has really shown that we need to take better care of ourselves. We need to take better care of our own health, our own well-being, and also how we fill our time. I think there was this huge realization for people that even for those that were blessed enough to be able to work from home, when they cut out the commute time to and from work, they cut out the time going to lunch, they cut out the time having drinks with their colleagues after work. They had all this time, and it was kind of like, well, I mean, I always wanted to learn how to rollerblade, or I always wanted to be able to take longer walks with the dog, or I always wanted to whatever. How about I go about doing that right now? So I think it was for a lot of people, it was that kind of that blessing of time and that blessing of self-awareness when it came to some of the excuses that had dominated their choices in the past. But then I've also seen the inverse of that, where, you know, you have this population of people that are into fitness, that are into health, that are wanting to lose weight, where they need to be, or they're in their own words, they need to be in that gym or studio environment. And so I've seen it happen with a lot of people that were in really solid routines, that were, you know, gymming their faces off every day and were really in the flow, where because they didn't have that outlet anymore, their health and their well-being has completely taken a back seat. They've kind of allowed that thing being taken away from them to determine whether or not they maintain those habits. So I think I've seen definitely a growth. Like my business, I'm not ashamed to say it, but it's not everybody's story, but I had a very successful 2020 because of all of this. But then I think a lot of people, not a lot, I think just that kind of cross section of society had found that their place, their escape, their, you know, that environment they went to and really thrived in was no longer there, and they kind of felt untethered and lost. So there's two sides to that coin, I think, to answer that question.
And I'm so excited that 2020 was a financially successful year for you. I always try to bring this conversation back to money in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to us a little bit about where you are on your journey to financial confidence or financial freedom,
Mm-hmm.
and how has your business contributed towards that?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting topic for me because I'm one of those people, and I don't think I'm unique, but I'm one of those people who has no business having a business. Like I should have been a statistic. You know, I grew up in a single parent household. We lived off government benefits, legit on the wrong side of the tracks, like a very affluent white town, and we lived, like, I'm not kidding, on the other side of the train tracks. And there was nothing in my immediate environment that showed me that my future could look any different. I was incredibly academic. I really thrived in school from an academic standpoint. But honestly, I had no role models. I had no reason to believe that my life could be different. And I really attribute a lot of my growth and my kind of shifting of that belief system to meeting who is now my husband. When we got together when we were 17 years old. We've been together 22 years this year, which is insane. But meeting him, and he comes from almost the opposite. Like, his family was still not well off, but, you know, that kind of nuclear family where both his parents are together, have been together for a long time, very, very close knit. And I started to see something different in terms of relationships and worth and value as a human based on how other people treated you. I started to see a different story when we got together. And obviously his career has been the thing that has moved us around a lot. But I say all that to give you the backstory of, there's nothing in my history that would ever have put me here as the owner of two successful businesses and on my way to building financial stability independent of my husband. And I say that for a reason. Bear with me. So I think there's a lot of women that or men that find themselves in this position where they are financially dependent on a spouse. And that has never sat well with me. And it's not that I don't love my husband. It's not that I want independent wealth from my husband. What's his is mine. What's mine is his. We've always been that way. But we went through a bit of a tumultuous period in our marriage about nearly 5 years ago. And I honestly thought that we were on the brink of divorce. I didn't see a way that we were going to come out of that. And I sat with myself and realized I have given this man the ability to feed me. He also has the ability to starve me, right? And for me, that was a really powerful realization because, again, this isn't about, being independent and me being able to be like, yeah, peace out. I don't need to be married to you anymore. It's not about that. But I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like that feeling of dependence. And I think that stems back to childhood stuff too. I don't want my worth and my value to be dependent on other people. Now that I know better than that, I can't pretend that I don't know, right? So that's something that has always stuck with me. So for me, my journey towards financial kind of freedom, financial stability looks a little bit different to most people, I think, because my husband affords us the ability for me to build my business at home and build it from the ground up and not have to work another job while I do that. But the goal that I'm well on my way towards fulfilling is I want to retire him. I want to be the primary breadwinner. He would never go for that because he loves his job. But like for us to just have more options and more choices. And I think that's all we all want in this life is to have choices. And especially as a woman, you don't have to be dependent on a spouse for your freedom and your ability and your choices. And I think that's just been kind of what has fueled my entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of it has been based around that financial foundation.
I love it. I love it. I think that there's no bad piece in there because you're not coming from a bad place, right? You're not coming from a place of, I just want to be independent. You're coming from a place of, in our partnership, I am equally yoked.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Exactly that. Yeah. And there is that sense of stability and self-efficacy. I think there's this element of ownership that you get to have over your own future and your own destiny when you do have the capacity to operate independently from somebody. And I think that truly is the definition of powerful, strong relationships, marriages, is that ability that both parties don't need each other. They want to be together. And I think that is often the thing that's thrown off balance sometimes, especially when one gender is more able in terms of finances than the other. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does make sense. It's an interesting thought process. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I entirely agree, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's okay for that person to take up your weaknesses, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think that part is okay. I think that you can be powerful, independent, and make your mark, mm-hmm. no matter what you do, and still have that other person that you can be 100% vulnerable with, mm-hmm. and that in some ways might make up your weaknesses. Like the things that you're not quite as strong at, they may be more so. And I find that in many relationships, whether it's unconscious or it's conscious, I don't know what it is, but that balance seems to be there in so many of them. That one person may be poor at one thing, but the other person is just a powerhouse at it, and that they come mm-hmm. together, and it's a really beautiful thing. No,
I agree with that.
Relationships,
I agree with that.
I can't get behind, but yeah.
I agree with that. I think there definitely is that lifting each other up. And we were talking about our relationship actually to one of my husband's friends last weekend. It's a younger guy, and he was kind of like, I'm looking for my Sabrina, And he was like, how do you guys get to that place where you were together so young, like 17 children, and still be together now? My husband's about to turn 40. I'm not far away from that. And being and still be very, very much in love and very connected. And he put it a perfect way. He was like, you need, and I don't think I worded it right. He said, you need that person, not because you couldn't survive financially or having a roof over your head or whatever if they weren't there, but rather when they're not there, you're kind of like, there's something really profound missing right now. And he just mentioned that he notices that if I'm traveling or if I'm away or whatever, and he comes home from work and it's just like, so I haven't got like my person to be here. So I think, that's my thoughts on
Yeah,
that.
I love it. So, Sabrina, as we bring our conversation to a close, what message do you want to leave the audience with? What were your closing thoughts for the audience?
Oh gosh. I think through it all, the weight loss, the entrepreneurship, the relationships, the struggle, the successes, the the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think I I just want everyone, but I want to talk to you women in particular. I want you to have the capacity to believe that nothing is too good for you. Nothing is out of your reach. Nothing is meant for them, whoever they are that you're looking at, those people you put on a pedestal. Nothing is too good for you. Whatever you want for your life, it was put in your heart for a reason, and you have the capacity to make it so. I think a lot of what we struggle with is that dichotomy of the passion is there, the want is there, the desire is there, but then there's this complete lack of belief in ourselves to make that thing happen. And so we settle and we, push ourselves aside, and we put all of our focus on, other things, building a family, having children. None of that is bad, except when it gets in the way of you truly living the fulfilled life you were created to live. Like, I firmly believe that we were created to live incredible lives, but it's our responsibility to make it that way. And my message is, have the capacity to believe in your ability to do that.
I think it's a beautiful message. I think it's a
Thank
beautiful
you.
message. And it's a wonderful way to end this conversation. Everybody, this is Sabrina Militello. If you want to learn more about Sabrina, you can find a link in the description below, and you're able to chat with her. If you are with us on Facebook, she is in the group Money Flow Mentors, and she's there. She can answer questions for you. If you're watching on YouTube, her link will be in the description in just a moment. So, with that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing night, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday with RK and Franklin. Sabrina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.